Hello the world, hello the internet, hello Jason Isaacs. It's time to talk about revision. As you can see there, this is the Michaelmas 2021 video. If you go online, you'll probably see that I've done this video pretty much every year, sometimes twice a year. The good news, I suppose, is that I'm getting better at it, I hope. We'll soon find out. You'll be able to let me know in the comments. Not really much to talk about apart from revision. A couple of things really about what we know about next year and what we don't know about next year, and then some tips on revision strategy. Now, this is as much for the mums and dads who might be listening as for the kids. Assessment next year. Well, what we know is that the government wants to have assessment. They want to have kids back in exams because, for good or ill, it's turned out to be probably the fairest way of assessing children. If that doesn't work, then we move on to Plan B, and it's definitely a Plan B. And again, the guidance is not entirely clear, and the guidance is just guidance at this stage. So our take on it is that the government is expecting us to produce a number of data points. It looks like it's going to be about 3. These have to be whole cohort tests, and we're going to do them in our mocks. And if we do have exams, then obviously this is going to be perfect preparation for that. If we don't have exams, then God help us all. But we will have these data points. We will have at least 3 data points. So mocks in 2 batches in the Lent term in February and January, and then we'll have another data point if we have to when we come back from the Easter holidays in April. And then potentially some other data points, but again, we want to try to make sure we've got at least 3 big points that we can hang our coats on and say, yep, that's the data that we're using for the assessment. Again, all of that is provisional. Who knows what's going to happen at time of going to press? The Omicron data, the Omicron virus is still circling around somewhere. Who knows? No one really does. Certainly not the government. And so the plan is to keep our plans as general as we possibly can at this stage. Right. The other thing we know is that we're coming into a very volatile environment for those who are applying to university. And the reason is that because 2 years of great inflation have left us with students, some universities in a weird old position. Some were forced to accept more than they'd anticipated, leaving inevitably others somewhat short-handed. What this means is that certain universities have got big bulges that they've got to work through. You've got 2 bulge years that they're going to have to try to massage through the system. And if you're looking at an elite university that doesn't normally offer that many places, and then suddenly they got this big influx of students who have all made their grades, and they've had to accommodate them. They've had to what's the word I'm looking for? Not accept, but they had to honour the offers that they'd made. Then these universities are going to be looking for reasons to cut the application path from there down to there, because they've got to cut the numbers. If they don't have the accommodation, if they're hemmed in by a very small footprint, and you should be thinking now about various universities. I'm not going to name them here because I don't want to go to court massively. But we've got universities out there who are telling us, we are going to have to be an awful lot more strict in our interpretation of our offers. And if you're looking at an elite university that's over-offered over the last couple of years, and they've got a restricted footprint, so they can't have massive great concertina accommodation, then you better hit that offer, because if you don't hit it, there's going to be very little flex in the model. Elsewhere, there's going to be a huge amount of flex, but it all really depends about where you want to go. And in some instances, what you want to study. You're going to get different levels of supply and demand across different institutions, across different courses. So you've got to think very, very carefully about the amount of capacity that a university will have, both in terms of its teaching and in terms of its accommodation. And if that capacity is limited in terms of accommodation or in terms of desk space, think about medics, engineers, and so on and so forth, then that's going to have implications for your application. So speak to your tutor, speak to me, and we'll make sure that when you're choosing your universities, you pick a suitable range of universities and not leaving yourself hostage too much to fortune. So, yes, it's a volatile environment, but we can give you all the tools you need to succeed in that. What we can also do is we can try to help you with your revision strategy. Now, this is massively important. And every time when I started doing this presentation, I immediately assumed that the problem that everybody would have was the same problem that I had, which was starting revision. And so I said all sorts of terrible things about how revision was a massive pain and so on. And a number of people came up to me and said, well, actually, no, I quite enjoy revision. One of the problems I've got is knowing when to stop. And I recognize that. Certainly now I recognize it. It's been pointed out to me enough times. So when we're looking at revision, I accept that people come to it with different strengths and different weaknesses. And it's something that we have to do. And it's something that we have to do while we're doing all the other things that we have holidays for. So we have to remember to try to fold into this particular program some degree of balance. And all of that really demands that you have a plan. And fundamentally, that's what we try to do here. So I keep moving this across the screen. I hope that's not too confusing. Those of you who've had the tremendous misfortune to be taught by me will know that I love the rule of three. And here we have a 3x3 grid. 2 is normally not enough, 4 is probably too many, but 3 is indeed the magic number. That's what it is. So our revision guide breaks into 3 parts. Getting organized, so that's the stuff you're doing now before you go on holiday. Getting on with it, that's the stuff that you do when you're actually on the holiday. And getting your head around it, getting into that right mental space that's going to help you get the most out of your revision and indeed the rest of your holiday. And you can see there that each of those breaks into 3, of course, hence the 3x3 thing. So getting organized. Let's start with that one because it is number 1. First of all, have a look at yourself. Be honest, be organized. What is your strength? What are your weaknesses? And make sure that when you're building your revision plan, you function that in. Is your problem getting started? Is your problem stopping? Knowing what that is going to help you build an effective revision plan. Here's another incredibly important thing, place. You need to have somewhere that is work so that you can go from that to somewhere that is not work. That clear sense of demarcation is massively important, both in terms of starting, so going from the not work to the work, which that was that way around, wasn't it? And then knowing that you've stopped, and so you go from the work to the not work. That demarcation is incredibly important. We all found that when we were in lockdown, and if your parents have ever worked from home in the normal run of things, in the before times, then they'll be able to tell you just how important it is to have a place that is yours, that is where you go to work. And in that place, it should have all the things you need. Yeah, paper, pens, whatever else you need, computers, blah, blah, blah. And the things you don't need, then they're not there. So your phone doesn't have to be there. Your Xbox or PlayStation or whatever we're on nowadays, that doesn't have to be there either. So you can separate the things from work from the things from not work. I'm losing track of which one's work and which one, it doesn't matter. I think you get the general idea. This one's work now. So you've got your place of work, you've got your place of not work. Pull rank. I mean, at home, probably everything's going to be in demand. People will be working from home. But you have to find somewhere where you can work, where you can leave your papers on the desk. So the dining table is not a particularly good option. Once upon a time, people used to have libraries nearby. Those were great places to work because then you got a real sense of transition. I'm at home. Oh, now I'm at work. I'm at the library, and I can work here. So if you've got somewhere nearby where you can just go and work, then do that. If you've got a spare room in the house that you can set up shop in, then do that as well. Don't work in your room. That's incredibly inefficient and very, very unhealthy. Don't work on the dining table because you've got people coming in and people going out. You've got all sorts of distractions going on. That's not a particularly good idea. Find a space, get dibs on it. You're going to be there for 3 weeks. So, your time. And schedule. Get yourself a plan because you need to know how many hours you're going to work in the day, how many days you're going to work in the week, and how you're going to apportion that to all of your subjects. And that has to be done now. That has to be done before you go away on holiday. So please, 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 over the next few days, weeks, discuss with your tutor and work out that essay, that revision schedule. That's the single most important thing that you could be doing now. So please do get on with that. And then when you're getting on with it, this is how you revise effectively. Well, we talked already about planning. You've got to plan. You've got to identify the things that you have to look at. You've got to look at the content. What do I actually have to learn? And then the rubric, which is another fancy word really for exam technique. What are they going to test you on? How are they going to test you? What sort of questions are they going to ask you? All of that sort of stuff you should know before you get on with your revision exactly where you want to focus. All of that. Then in terms of actually doing it, then set yourself some challenging questions. Going through your work, don't just sit there and stare at your work. That's not revision, that's just vegging out. So set yourself challenging questions. I'm going to do this, and then, how am I going to get my head around this particular issue? Set yourself that question. And active revision, making notes, making flashcards, answering questions, making schedules, whatever it is, making big mind maps, all of that stuff is good. Active revision, not just sitting there reading the text, but again, that's not revision. There's no engagement going on there. Speak to your tutors, speak to your subject teachers. They will be able to help you with these things, and exactly how you're going to work out on each subject is something that you have to decide on a subject by subject basis. But again, it's very, very important that you're honest with yourself and you identify the areas that really need most of your attention. And then apply. Practicing past paper questions. Again, if you've been taught by me, you know how much stock we put in the past paper questions. When you're answering the questions, it doesn't have to be full exam. You don't have to write everything out longhand. You can bullet points, you can work in ideas. It doesn't matter. But it's got to be according to the exam rubric. So getting that information that you've been working on in the review and then putting that into practical application by practicing those exam papers. Again, I don't have time to go into this in specific detail and exhaustive detail in this particular presentation. Talk to your subject teachers, talk to your tutors, and they'll be able to help you in this getting on with it. What I want to focus on finally in this particular area is getting your head around it. Now, whether your problem is starting or finishing, doesn't matter. You have to build that into your equation so that you tackle this with a positive mental attitude. You've got to get this work done. And once we accept that it's brutally unfair for you to have to work all the way through the holidays while everybody else is having a particularly good time, then fine, that's it. We can get on with it. That's just something that you have to accept, and that's something that's going to happen this holiday. It's going to happen in the Easter holiday when you really do have to get your head down and crack on. So positive mental attitude. This is what it is, and we're going to talk about how you can create that positive mental attitude in the next two things. And the first thing I want to talk about is present bias. It's one of my favorite subjects because I suffer from it as much as anybody else. We all know that we should eat healthily and go to the gym and exercise, but sometimes it's just much easier to sit there and watch TV. That's present bias. Shut up, dogs. And present bias is the difficulty that we all have in trying to give proper weight to our long-term better interests. And nowhere is this more evident than in teenagers, I'm afraid. That's when present bias is probably the strongest in you until you reach the position of head of sixth form. Yes, I should write my reports, but actually, I'm going to go off and do something else instead. I'm going to make a video instead of writing my reports. Anyway, so, shush, hound attack. Present bias, it's out there, so deal with it. Use rewards. When you get to the end of the day, treat yourself, whatever it is, however it is that you treat yourself. Go for a walk if that's the sort of thing, or I don't know, go to the pub, or sit down and watch some Netflix. Give yourself that reward. And the idea of I'm going to work really hard in the exams, I'm going to get great grades, and I'm going to go off and do all of these things. That's nice, that's fantastic, that's exactly the right approach, but it's not the sort of thing that's going to get you through the day. That sort of long-term abstract goal is not massively helpful. So at the end, say, right, I'm going to get to 5:30 and then I'm going to go to the pub, or I'm going to go to the pictures, assuming either are open over Christmas, who knows. Give yourself that reward. And this folds into the idea of goal. I want you all to set a goal. I want you all to set yourselves a goal over the Easter holidays. How many hours am I going to do? And then once you've established how many hours you think you're going to do, then you work backwards through the weeks, through the days, and into the hours, so you can work out how many hours a day you have to work. Because it's very, very important that when you are on target for your goal, that you get to the end of the working day and you can have that drop the pen moment. Yes, I have done it. I have achieved my goal for the day. I have said I was going to do 8 hours, and now I've done 8 hours. Bang. I'm off. I'm not going to work anymore. And when mum or dad say, why aren't you revising? You say, sorry, I'm finished. I've done my 8 hours for the day. And then they'll say, well, what do you mean 8 hours for the day? And you say, well, actually, the thing is, that all fits into my plan. And of all of the things we're talking about today, this is probably the most important. Keep calm and make a plan. Think about the school working week, okay? The school working week, you've got 3 subjects, 2 teachers, 3 lessons, 50 minutes a lesson, whatever it is. That works out basically 15 hours of taught time a week. Now, your Christmas break is effectively 3 weeks. Now, if you worked 15 hours over 3 weeks, then that's 45 hours. And it's pretty rubbish, really, I think. I'm sure you can do a little bit more than that. So how much can you do? Well, let's look at this. Let's see what we can do to break this down. Let's have a look at the Christmas holidays, and here we are. So we all, so don't work on Saturdays. Don't work on Sundays. You don't have to. You don't have to work at weekends. If you do this smart, if you stick with me and work according to my particular plan here, you do not have to work weekends, okay? I don't think you should work weekends. You need the time off, okay? And we're also going to lose a bit of time because we've got days traveling and in and out. And don't work Christmas Eve, don't work New Year's Eve. And you're probably going to be feeling a little rough on that day. So what does that leave us with? Well, if you count all of those up, you'll find that leaves us with 13 days. 13 days. And we've got all of that time off. We've got more days. Well, how many days off have we got there? We've got 10, 11, 12, whatever days off it is. It's quite healthy. That's enough time to get those batteries recharged. Now, if you're working 13 hours a day, what you're going to be doing, if you're working over those 13 hours, then 13 days, then you can decide how big you want the revision jump to be. Now, what do I mean by a revision jump? Well, what normally happens when you're working is that your learning increases in that particular, which way am I going? Whichever way it is, doesn't matter, in that sort of trajectory. Now, however, you introduce a vacation into that, then what happens is that, we drop down. That's if we don't revise. If we decide we're going to revise, then what we can actually do is increase that. We can push that up onto a parallel trajectory. Now, how big do you want that jump to be? That's entirely up to you. But all the work you do over the vacation will contribute to that jump. Again, how big do you want it to be? Do you want it to be that big, or that big? Well, let's go back to that 13 days that we were looking at earlier. 13 days. If you do 5 hours a day, that takes you out to 65, 6, 78, where you can all read what I've done there. How big do you want that jump to be? Now, 8 hours a day, 7 hours a day, does that sound like a lot? Well, it's certainly not small, but here it is broken down. And so it's entirely doable. You can get this work done. You can work out how to use that time constructively. You can do a whole day. And if you do a whole day, 13 days, then what you're going to wind up with is one of those numbers. So set yourself a target. How many hours a day are you going to work? What's going to be your total target? Because this is how you change tracks. How big do you want this to be? It's entirely up to you. But this is your chance to change tracks. Start making that plan now. I am going to do this many hours. Talk to your tutor. I am going to do this many hours. And then when we all come back in the new year, we can compare notes and see how we've all done. I'll be doing this again on assembly on Friday, just bringing it up, making sure that those key points are got across. But please, please, please talk to your tutors. Get those subject plans in place. Tell us how many hours you're going to do over the Christmas holidays. We're all ready to be massively impressed. Balance that right, and you'll be able to get that work recuperation completely sorted. You'll have a fantastic time, and we'll see you all in the new year. I look forward to it. Have a great vacation. See you all very, very soon. Take care now.